Chapter 1592. He was probably suppressing something in his heart. When it was time to eat, Xiaojing's cold got worse and his cough became hoarse. Luo wanted to bring him to the clinic in the small town for an drip. He swallowed 2 pills and pressed his hand on her head. I'm a doctor myself. Moreover, he knew very well where the problem was, so there was no need for an drip. In the past, this person would never wait until it was this serious before taking medicine. Luo still felt that she had to take a look. Also, she didn't know if it was because his hand wasn't used to the environment here, but the side of his hand had a rash. It was fine if he caught a cold. But for esports players, the most important thing was their hands. The second after Luo saw the rashes, Luo's expression changed. She grabbed his hand and said, "Let's go to the clinic." She couldn't let anything happen to him here. Especially his hands. He bought the ointment and applied it. Luo was still worried, and asked the doctors in the clinic many questions. They were all from a small town. The doctor laughed. Luo, your friend isn't used to living here. He has an allergic reaction. You're so nervous. I thought he was your boyfriend. Luo instantly calmed down and glanced sideways at Xiaojing. The man didn't seem to hear the doctor's words. He reached out and placed his hand on her head again. I said I'm fine. Luo watched as the doctor widened his eyes. He didn't know how to explain it to others. Their captain liked to press her head. This was his old habit. In the eyes of others, they would probably look a little intimate. It was more than intimate. Luo couldn't see Xiaojing's eyes from her angle. That pair of eyes seemed to hide too much gentleness. Almost all of his efforts were spent on this action. In the afternoon, Xiaojing had to help Mama Luo cut vegetables again. Luo rejected him directly. If you do this, your hands will be fine. If you itch, your hand speed will decrease. It doesn't matter. Xiaojing's voice was so light that Luo didn't even hear what he said. She just looked at him. Just then Xiaojing's cell phone rang. Luo looked at the caller ID and found it familiar. It was from the club. Xiaojing stood up. I'm going to take a call. Luo replied. MH. She knew that he was about to go back. Sitting in the courtyard, he looked at the setting sun. The phone call lasted a long time. When he came back, Luo opened her mouth. Captain, you should buy a ticket. No. Xiaojing's throat hurt when he said these 2 words. Luo lowered her eyes and clenched her fists. I came back because I want to start afresh. With you here, I can't start afresh. As you can see, I have my own life now. Actually, you don't have to worry about me. I will play with the kids in the kindergarten and occasionally eat ice cream. I have also found my own career. Other than esports, there are other industries that I like. I will stay here and be a primary school teacher. Even though my education isn't high and I don't even have a high school diploma, my classmate said that as long as I can get a teaching qualification certificate, I will be able to do some tutoring according to the actual situation. Luo lowered her eyes and clenched her fists. Luo paused for a moment. So, I'm no longer the female teammate that you always have to worry about. You should really go back. Chapter 1593. Luo paused. She didn't deny it. Xiaojing pressed his hand on her head. But without you, I won't be able to live well. I don't want to play games and I don't want to do research. Even though it's late, I still want to say this. Luo, maybe I liked you a long time ago, but I didn't understand that it was like that. I thought I treated you well because you were my team member. Luo's gaze trembled. Her heartbeat was in a mess. Xiaojing lowered his voice. It's good to be a teacher. Education isn't that important. Look at me. I have high education, but I still lost the person I like. Luo opened her mouth and wanted to say something. Mother Luo called them to eat. Xiaojing looked up. Let's go. If it's really inconvenient, I will leave. Luo was in a mess. When it was time to eat, she couldn't eat at all. She sat in her room. She looked at the things that she collected and hid. She liked them too much. Because she liked them too much. Hence, sometimes, she didn't even dare to touch them. It wasn't easy for her to let them go. She seemed to have to let go of that man. Then she could stop thinking about the days when she played games. Glory. Scolding. She would stay away. In the end, she didn't have the courage. She wasn't good enough for him. No matter what happened, he could stand there and not be defeated. She couldn't. The internet is really a magical thing. Anyone could say irresponsible things. It could wear away your love for an industry. She seemed to have forgotten why she wanted to play esports well. If she only wanted money, it would be much easier. That way, she would be able to deal with a series of plans easily. If she liked something, it would be easy to treat it seriously. But no matter what, people were manipulating things and benefits were the trend. The manager of the club had talked to her about retiring a long time ago. Long before she left, they had already looked for someone to replace her. The era of esports had arrived. They didn't want someone like her who was no longer fresh to everyone. Sometimes there would even be scandals. The club needed to change, and the team needed fresh blood. Luo understood what the manager meant. She knew that he wanted her to leave with dignity. Maybe they wouldn't be together. She could imagine it. He was still playing esports. And she was starting to dislike this industry. He wanted to fight side by side. Like what he likes, she likes too. Was it because the dreams he had when he was young were too beautiful? Only when they woke up would they have a clear understanding of reality. Luo closed her eyes. After she covered herself with the blanket, she couldn't help but bite her hand. It was raining outside. Even Xiaojing's voice on the phone was hoarse. I'll go back when she's really happy. Captain, why didn't you tell Luo that you retired? Zhao Sampeng was anxious. That way you can gain more sympathy. Xiaojing's gaze fell on one point. No. Why? Zhao Sampeng didn't understand. Xiaojing's black hair fell down, covering his hair. She participated in competitions when she was very young and thought that playing esports was a very cool thing, so no matter what she encountered, she never gave up. Now that she has woken up from her dream, she doesn't want to be broken into pieces. If I say that I'm also retiring now, her faith will collapse. She still wants to fight alongside us. Chapter 1594. Zhao Sanpeng's voice was a little hoarse when he said this. Xiaojing didn't say much. He just replied, MMH. Zhao Sampeng wanted to ask his captain many times. Wasn't he disappointed? Wasn't he disappointed in the face of such treatment? But he couldn't bring himself to ask this question. When his captain told him not to let Luo's dream be shattered, Zhao Sampeng finally understood something. Why did this person retire? For a person. Why didn't he tell that person when he retired? To protect that person's original heart. So that even when she had to endure all this, she could still remember when she woke up the next day. She could do it again when she woke up from her dream. No matter how cruel reality was. He could always smile when he thought back to his younger days. He didn't want Luo to know that it wasn't worth it to fight side by side with him. This was the same as 3 years ago. Some words couldn't be said. He knew that he couldn't say it. No one knew better than this person what he and Luo were thinking about. Whether it was pure love or the feelings they had for each other for so many years. He had always been their captain. Sometimes they thought too highly of themselves. They received too much love. They thought they wouldn't change. In this day and age, very soon, no one would remember who they were. They would lose the championship. This was normal. After the club understood that they couldn't get their captain back, they started to prepare to abandon him. It was indeed better that Luo didn't know about this. The new mid laner was very popular. Something they couldn't do. He could do it. Hence he could stay. He couldn't let Luo know about this. Other people probably didn't understand. But Zhao Sampeng knew why his captain did this. When he went, he wanted to bring her back. He really wanted to be together. Now he probably wanted her to stay there. Then he accompanied her. That's right. Why did he come back? Zhao Sampeng looked up and glanced at the news released by the club. Some people were saying, I really don't understand why Almighty Xiao did this. Almighty Xiao is pretending to be dead. Zhao Sampeng is the same. Isn't the new mid laner supposed to work together? Isn't this too much? They didn't even give us fans an explanation. Up to this point, Zhao Sampeng had lost all his emotions. He locked himself up and couldn't help but ask, Captain, do you regret playing esports? On the other end of the line, Xiao Jing paused for a moment before saying, "Repent." When Zhao Sampeng heard that, he felt really bad. Xiao Jing glanced sideways at the night sky outside the window. When Luo Luo retired, she regretted it. I looked at the words of those people, the decision made by the club, and watched her leave. I regretted it. If it wasn't for esports, I wouldn't have met you guys. Zhao Sampeng paused again. Xiao Jing smiled and said in a low voice, "That's enough." Zhao Sampeng cried like an idiot. No one could understand what kind of emotion that was. The next day, Luo Luo woke up very early. He had thought that he wouldn't meet that person. But when she arrived at the courtyard, she saw that he had one hand wrapped in gauze and was fiddling with her flowers. It was still drizzling outside, and some of it landed on his hair. Such a white-robed youth really did not belong to the human world. Luo Luo looked at his scholarly aura, and this was the thought that rose in her mind. "I'll send you there." This was the first thing he said. Luo Luo lowered her gaze. "They are all my classmates." Chapter 1595. The two of them held an umbrella. They didn't walk a long way. Luo Luo had a car, but her driving skills weren't good. The first time she drove on the road around the island, the engine even stalled. At that time, Zhao Sampeng laughed for a long time. Now her driving skills were still bad. Especially when there was such a person. Xiao Jing could roughly tell. He turned his head and said, "Change seats." She gave way generously and sat in the front passenger seat. She glanced at him from time to time. When she heard that he was coughing, she couldn't help but pass him a box of lozenges. Xiao Jing took one. He was completely different from Qin Mo. He never tried to hurt himself. Even Zhao Sampeng said, "Captain, if you were half as shameless as Qin Mo, you would have gotten her long ago." But people were destined to be different. Luo Luo liked Xiao Jing. Xiao Jing was like this. From a youngster to a man. She had seen it all. He didn't talk much and didn't show much expression. Address. Xiao Jing coughed and pressed the navigation button. Luo Luo told him the location. It was a very close distance. It wouldn't take more than half an hour to drive. Xiao Jing didn't start the car immediately. He glanced at Luo Luo before leaning over and buckling the seatbelt with one hand. Luo Luo's breathing was a little tight. Her heart too. But that person was still very gentlemanly. After fastening the seatbelt, he stopped. His side profile was a little pale. Hence, when Luo Luo walked into the restaurant, she couldn't get rid of that person's shadow. "Luo Luo." Someone walked up to her. Luo Luo glanced up. It was classmate Lung. "Almost everyone is here. Hurry up and go in. I'll wait for the rest." She was still smiling brightly. Luo Luo replied, "Okay." In reality, she wasn't paying attention. When she walked in, she even had to force herself to smile when people greeted her. But Luo Luo's arrival, some people didn't feel good about it. For example, Li Xian, who had liked classmate Lung for a long time. She looked at her attire and her face that didn't seem to have any traces of age. She picked up her wine glass and smiled lightly. "Luo Luo hasn't changed after so many years. I'm so envious. But I thought you would stay in the big city and not come back. After all, when you went over, you left with this sentence. It's not easy to survive in the big city." Luo Luo glanced over and replied generously, "It's not easy. I know a lot of people who can't survive in the big cities anymore and want to come back to our small place to enjoy the scenery." Li Xian continued to smile. After all, the information in a small place isn't good. The internet was a strange place. It will toughen you up more than real life. Therefore, the moment he opened his mouth, Luo Luo seemed to understand what she wanted to say. She placed the wine glass there and shook it gently. "You can say what you want to say directly." "What can I say?" Li Xian's fingers twitched. "It's too troublesome to talk about it. Let's just tell the group about your incident. That way everyone will know how our great beauty Luo is being judged." Luo Luo smiled. "Please." Li Xian didn't believe that she didn't care. Because of today's gathering, she had done a lot of research on Luo Luo. She wanted everyone to know what was going on with her. Why did he come back to them? It was because this person had nowhere else to go. There was indeed some effect. In less than 3 minutes, Chapter 1596. Li Xian unlocked her phone. How are you going to explain all this? Don't think that a small place like ours would keep people like you. Luoluo glanced over. Then she placed her wine glass down and stood up. Li Xian laughed. You don't intend to say anything? Your phone is recording. It seems like you are prepared. Luoluo placed one hand on the table and pressed her body down. Can you tell me what I said? Li Xian didn't expect her to realize that she was recording. Luoluo's voice was calm. I was fooled once in the past. It won't happen again. Li Xian smirked. It seems like you have nothing to say. Luoluo glanced up. Humans are usually like this. At the start, they want to say a lot, but then they realize that the person asking you is very interesting. Hence, they don't want to say anything. Li Xian smiled. You really know how to change the topic. Should I say that you are scheming? Luoluo glanced over. If you really want to say something, you can. I still want to compete and be with those people. The only thing that can defeat me is that they took away my longing for this. I know too well who is behind this and why I'm standing here. I don't even want to touch the mouse anymore. It's because I hate what I used to love. Well said, Li Xian said nonchalantly. I'm just letting everyone know that even your team's captain isn't playing anymore. It's obvious that you can't stay in the game anymore, so don't be here. Luoluo suddenly stopped in her tracks. What did you say? He isn't playing games anymore? Ooh. Your captain. Luoluo, don't tell me you don't know. Luoluo didn't listen to the rest of the sentence. Her mind was blank for a moment. When she regained her senses, she lowered her head and sent a message over. He had already lowered his head and sent a message over. Where are you? In the car. The other side quickly replied with 2 words. Luoluo took a deep breath. She wanted to ask something but she couldn't. After switching to another page, she called Zhao Sampeng directly. When Zhao Sampeng picked up the phone, he was still happy. Hey Luoluo, he retired? Luoluo's words interrupted him. Her eyes reddened uncontrollably. Did he retire? Zhao Sampeng cursed in his heart. Luoluo, listen to me. It's normal to retire, right? You retired too. Everyone has to retire sooner or later. Because of what? Luoluo's fingers sank into her palms. His condition hasn't deteriorated and his commercial value is still so high. No one will. Is it because of me? Did I implicate him? Zhao Sampeng gritted his teeth. No. F***ck fine. It's because of you, but you didn't drag him down. Chapter 1597. After hearing the last sentence, Luoluo couldn't take it anymore. Luoluo couldn't take it anymore. She hung up the phone and ran to the underground car park. She didn't even ask for Xiao Jing's exact location. She was afraid that her voice would turn hoarse if she opened her mouth. He could still recognize his own car. But when she ran over, many things appeared in her mind. When she was very young, she carried her bag and walked out of this place. At that time, she didn't know what she would meet, what kind of people she would meet, and whether she would be able to turn the game into a competition. Later on, she was liked and disliked. She joined Xiangnan and won the championship. She thought that it was okay to be afraid of the dark. She just had to let herself shine. But if she couldn't shine, what should she do? Now she realized. He didn't want her here or there. There would always be a place she could go. He was her captain. He was also the person she never regretted liking. Over the years, what she had learned the most was to be on guard. Many people didn't understand, but he did. Hence, every time he would caress her head and not say anything. It didn't matter if she hated the person she once loved. It was because that person was still here. Xiao Jing sat in the car. His throat was burning. He looked at his phone many times. He was thinking about whether he should go up. When he placed his eyes outside, he was analyzing his personality, rather than saying that he was confirming, rather than saying that he was worried that he would see someone else in her eyes. The worship would be destroyed. He didn't want to live in her worship. He really regretted coming here. From worship to liking. It wasn't something that couldn't happen. Qin Mo was right to mock him. He deserved to be abandoned. Xiao Jing leaned back. His gaze was far away. He was tired, but he couldn't fall asleep. He was thinking about which stage they were at. during the class reunion, they would definitely say that the two of them were the most compatible. Xiaojing clenched his fists. He had never felt such an emotion before. He simply couldn't stand a person, regardless of whether that person was good or not. He was really compatible with her. He even felt jealous. Yes, it wasn't that hard to admit some things. He was so jealous that he almost went crazy. Xiaojing even wanted to go up now and take her away. It wasn't that she didn't have some kind of impulse, but she knew very well that after leaving that place, she would at least be at peace here. Zhao Sampeng asked him if he was disappointed. He hadn't thought about that. They just wanted to continue fighting together. It was no different from before. The person who supported them no longer supported them. As long as they were still together, they could start over. However, sometimes seeing things too clearly would make one feel powerless. He no longer touched the game. Unless one day, they can all come back. But the reality was that he was too old to build another team. So he stopped touching it. Xiaojing coughed, swiped his finger across the screen of his cell phone, and stopped at the reply page. Just as he was about to type a sentence, the car door was pulled open. It was Luoluo. She stood there, her long hair a little messy like seaweed, accentuating her sharp facial features. Her red clothes were blazing, just like when they first met. Chapter 1598. After Luoluo said this, her eyes lit up. Are you willing? Almost in the next second, Xiaojing reached out and hugged her. Xiaojing reached out and hugged the man. His voice was hoarse. I should be the one saying this. Luoluo could only hear her intense heartbeat. But you aren't good with words. I couldn't wait anymore, so I spoke first. I don't know how long I would have to wait for you to say it. You only know how to take care of things for us. Xiaojing's hands paused. You knew? Sampeng told you? About your retirement? Luoluo lowered her voice. I know you did it because of us. You don't have to give us reasons to relax. Admit it, you like me. Xiaojing smiled. MH, I like you. I liked you from the start, and I still like you. If I have to date, you are the only one I can think of. I thought it was a habit, but it wasn't. Luoluo leaned her face on his shoulder. I'm probably the only fan who managed to get her idol. After all, a certain someone said that he wouldn't have sex with his fans. You are an exception. Xiaojing didn't speak much, but the gentleness in his voice was obvious. There was nothing more beautiful than these 3 words. To an extremely principled person. How lucky she was to be an exception. Luoluo understood his meaning. If he really said anything, he wouldn't be the expressionless captain she knew. But Luoluo's face paused when it touched his chin. Why was the temperature so high? She looked at his face. It was so pale it was beautiful. You are already in such a state, but you are still waiting in the underground car park. Luoluo was so anxious that she wanted to pull him into the hospital. Xiaojing's voice was calm. The only thing I can do is wait here. If I wake up, I will definitely go up and tell your classmates that we are the most compatible. Luoluo paused for a moment. Then she smiled. MMH, we are the most compatible. No matter what others said. It was fine if they thought she wasn't good enough for this man. It was fine if she wasn't outstanding enough. It was all in this sentence. She was in a hurry to go to the hospital. Her driving skills weren't good and she couldn't let Xiaojing drive when he had a high fever. Luoluo still brought him up. He happened to see the group of students standing on the first floor. They hadn't started eating yet. When they saw Luoluo standing together with a handsome man, they were all stunned. After all, that man's temperament was really too good. It was clearly an ordinary white shirt, but when he wore it, it seemed to be transparent. He gave off the vibe of a young master from an ancient family. Gentle as jade, with a strong scholarly aura. He didn't look like someone who should be with Luoluo. Luoluo, who is this? A student couldn't help but ask. Mr. Li, who was standing at the side, opened his mouth as well. They don't look the same. I'm sure this gentleman doesn't know how our great beauty Luo is judged. Chapter 1599. Get married soon? The people present weren't the only ones shocked. Luoluo herself was dumbfounded too. But the ones who had the biggest reaction were the students. After all, the man in front of her was too good. Didn't they say that no one wanted Luoluo? Why did such a person come out? Classmate Lee's lips froze for a moment before he smiled again. Luoluo's boyfriend? You have to take good care of Luoluo. She went on a blind date 2 days ago. I don't know if there's any misunderstanding between the two of you. The moment he said this, it seemed as though Luoluo, as a girl, was too casual in her relationship. Luoluo didn't say anything. She just wanted to leave with him. Her aura was strong. That was because the person in her hands was having a fever. But Xiaojing pulled her back and hugged her waist. He met the gaze of the group of people. It's not a misunderstanding. Luoluo wanted to break up with me, but I didn't agree to it. Hence, I shamelessly chased after her. I always knew about the blind date. I was the one who went to fetch her that day. Luckily, she chose me in the end. The moment he said this, it made it impossible for them to continue the conversation. But there were always people who didn't give up. That's because you don't know how many people she has flirted with in her circle. I heard that she has a crush on their captain, and it was recently exposed. This man is really magnanimous to be able to tolerate her so much. Xiaojing glanced over, his expression calm. Is that so? I'm her captain. I didn't even know that she has a crush on me. For a moment, classmate Lee's expression changed. After all, she had never thought about it. To see him in person. Didn't the fans say that the Almighty was a man of few words and wouldn't care about such matters? Why did he come over to their side? As for the rest, I've lived with her for 3 years. I know very well what she's like and I don't mind. I like her because she never gives in to anything. Even if she knows that the road ahead will be difficult, she keeps walking. She's the best mid in our team, and this can't be changed by a few words. It's already very difficult for her to walk out from here and walk to my side. When she was young, she encountered many problems. That's nothing, as long as she chooses me in the end. This part left the man with the surname Li completely speechless. Xiaojing didn't deny it. He simply said, I know best what she's like and I don't mind. It stopped the man from saying anything. Some of the students present also vaguely understood the twists and turns in this matter. Even a man would inevitably run into trouble when he was working hard outside, let alone a woman. What's more, these words were the thoughts of men. The best mid laner. What did that mean? Men only needed to touch the game to know. Let's put the pro league aside for now. This wasn't something an ordinary person could do. Now that things had come to this, as old classmates, other than sending their blessings, there wasn't much else they could do. Brother, take good care of Luoluo in the future. She was the campus belle of our school back then, and many people liked her. When people come and see this scene, they definitely won't be able to accept it. Xiaojing's words today were really out of line. I won't give others a chance. Chapter 1600. Xiaojing grunted in response. Before he left, he didn't forget to invite people to attend their wedding, especially after seeing Luoluo's classmate who was a soldier. Other than smiling bitterly, classmate Lung was basically at his wit's end. In reality, Luoluo had already rejected him. Moreover, it was the kind of rejection that gave him no chance at all. But in his heart, he thought that as long as he waited, there would be hope. Now he more or less understood. When the two of them stood together, it was as if there was no room for anyone else. This had nothing to do with being in a relationship. That was something that could only be obtained with time. After saying goodbye to her old classmates, Luoluo took Xiaojing to a taxi. Xiaojing fell asleep almost as soon as he got in the car. He didn't know if it was because of someone's concern. Luoluo glanced sideways at this person, and the corners of her lips curled up. There was an extremely beautiful smile on her pretty face. So many years. She seemed to owe him a sentence. Thanks for taking care of me. That was why she could still dream after experiencing so much. We all say that we like it strongly, and we desperately want to tell that person. However, he didn't seem to be like this, as he was a man of few words. Was it because he was the captain from the very beginning? Luoluo reached out and touched that person's eyes. When the driver saw this, he found it unbelievable. Miss, the two of you seem to have a good relationship. Luoluo replied. The sweetness was gone, but she still wanted to reach the hospital as soon as possible. Fortunately, She did not drive away from the underground parking lot. Her driving skills were not good, and he was like this. After arriving at the hospital, Xiaojing was hooked up to an intravenous drip and slept for less than an hour. Luolua was thinking about what he said about getting married soon. According to this person's personality, he would never say anything casually. But marriage, Luolua washed her face while he was asleep. He felt like he was dreaming. When she came back, Xiaojing was already awake. Luolua bought 2 bottles of water. She opened one and passed it to him. The phone in her mouth vibrated crazily. It should be from the discussion group. Only the discussion group would cause such a huge commotion. Luoluo swiped open her phone casually. When she lowered her lids to look at the page, her face turned slightly hot. Because the person in the group chat was none other than her. The reason was because of a certain someone's words. I just proposed to Luoluo. We're getting married soon. Help me tag her. You can reduce the gift money. F***CK. I must have opened my phone in the wrong way. Luoluo, really? Lin Chuntao said. You have to think it through. Marrying such an unromantic man will only drive you mad. I just finished lunch. I'm telling you, you're feeding me dog food again. Luoluo, reject him. Marry me when I'm 18. Coco snorted. I'm the most handsome. Ha 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 ha. Why do I feel like I'll be able to hold my godson soon? She changed her name again. Damn it. She was humiliated by Poker Face Xiao. What's so great about getting married? Lin Feng was very playful. Luoluo, wait for me. I will be amazing in the future. I will be handsome and rich. A domineering CEO is a good match for you. Yinhu arched a brow. What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for you to become straight? He added. I wish you all the best, Xiaojing and Luoluo. I want to be the best man. Bojio smiled faintly. The bride will definitely only look at me and not the groom. Handsome Jiao, your knight. Goddess Luoluo, get to know him better. Lin Feng laughed. I want to know how Captain feels now. Poker Face Xiao is getting married, but he's still waiting for your college entrance examination. Ha ha ha. Chapter 1601. In less than a minute, Lin Feng received a call from his assistant. Manager Lin, the contract with the Qin Group has gone cold. Lin Feng stilled. His shirt collar was slightly open, and he was half leaning on the sofa. He sat up immediately. Gone cold? How is that possible? We are brother companies. The assistant coughed lightly. The Qin Group told you to think about what you said. What did I say? Lin Feng stopped. How could he forget about his captain's vengeance? Yinhu was standing beside him. When he heard the voice, he glanced up from the report. What is it? Little Spade is really Captain's sore spot, Lin Feng said. He wanted to turn on the air conditioner because of the heat. Yinhu glanced at him. It's a small office. Didn't you say to save as much as possible on the air conditioner? That's right. Lin Feng sat beside him. I'm hot. When Yinhu heard this, he reached over and pressed the back of the person's head. Then he leaned over and his thin lips landed on the person's neck. There was a hint of coldness. Is it still hot like this? Lin Feng stilled. It was even hotter. F***CK. He brought this person over to admire his beauty. It wasn't for him to make a move on him. It was the same for a boyfriend. Kiss kiss, he only knew how to kiss. His heart was beating extremely fast. Lin Feng wasn't a pretentious person. He pressed down on his shoulder and pushed him onto the office chair, intending to kiss him. Yinhu arched a brow. Isn't your waist uncomfortable? I'll F***CK you, Lin Feng said. Yinhu chuckled. Oh. What? He didn't believe in his abilities. Lin Feng's skills were indeed good. But for some reason, whenever he was with Yinhu, he always felt weak. At the start, he was indeed domineering. But he didn't know when it started, but he had been kissed senseless. It was the same this time. He was the one pressing down on Yinhu. How did it turn into him sitting on the office table? He stood up and when he leaned over, his fingers had already unbuttoned his shirt. Did I mention that you're very handsome when you work? So handsome that I want you. The voice beside his ear was deep and bewitching. Lin Feng's breathing was no longer under his control. Next time, definitely, it's me who wants you. Yinhu chuckled and planted a kiss on his ear. I'll wait for you next time. However, the topic that Lin Feng started wasn't over yet. A certain almighty, who was about to get married, was sitting at a dinner table while others were still talking about the business circle. He said faintly, "This year's college entrance examination is really slow." Young Master Qin is also concerned about the college entrance exams? At the dining table, CEO Wang laughed. My son is also taking the college entrance exam this year. Seriously, I've been looking forward to it day by day. I just want it to end soon. Does young Master Qin have a younger brother or sister taking the college entrance exam as well? Qin Mo replied absent-mindedly. It's not my brother or sister, it's my wife. Husband, madam? The successful people at the dining table all paused for a moment. Then she remembered that Qin Mo was only in his early 20s. Understanding dawned on her. Are you worried about your wife's results? I understand this feeling. Director Wang continued to lead the conversation in a normal direction. Everyone is worried at this time. Unexpectedly, Qin Mo put down the wine glass in his hand, his voice cold and indifferent. No, I just want her to finish her exams quickly and marry me as soon as possible. Chapter 1602. He really couldn't reply to this. Boss Wang, who was trying his best to lead the topic in a normal direction, stuttered. Mary cough, I wish young Master Qin's wish will come true soon. After he finished speaking, he lifted his head and didn't speak anymore. Drinking was more practical. Qin Mo's thoughts didn't stop after the meal ended. After they got into the car, his assistant asked, Are you going back to the company or your home? Qin Mo replied nonchalantly, To her place. Needless to say, his assistant already knew who she was. Before he drove off, he wanted to send a message to Miss Jiu to study hard. Qin Mo, who was sitting at the back, spoke again. Don't do such things like sending messages. His assistant immediately kept his phone. He felt that his CEO wasn't very patient today. At this moment, Bo Jiu, who was biting a lollipop, was teaching her disciple how to use a Smurf account. What if she got bullied? Although her disciple was fierce, there weren't many people who knew what was good for her. Little Mo Bei, who was sitting in front of the computer, glanced up and said faintly, Master, it's time for you to write your test questions. I don't have the energy to write, I'm hungry. Bo Jiu smiled devilishly. She supported her chin with one hand. How about I bring you out to eat hot pot? Little Mo Bei stood up. I'll cook for you. You can't eat stimulating food before the National Higher Education Entrance Examination. Bo Jiu raised her eyebrows in amusement. Where did you get all these from? Little Mo Bei was expressionless. She seemed to be thinking for a moment before saying, My neighbor's sister is also taking the National Higher Education Entrance Examination. Her family members all say that. Bo Jiu's slender figure leaned against the wall. She bit on a strand of dog's tail grass lazily. She had a handsome side profile. I'm bored. I want to drink. You can't drink either. Little Mo Bei took a potato. Shall we make potato beef? Bo Jiu leaned back. There's no meaning in life if I can't eat hot pot or drink. Little Mo Bei washed the potato and placed it on the chopping board. She comforted her master seriously. After the National Higher Education Entrance Examination, you can marry your master's wife. Bo Jiu's eyes lit up. Beneath her silver hair, she smiled. All right, I'll bear with it. Compared to hot pot and wine, your mistress is more important. That's a good title. Use it more often in the future. Before little Mo Bei could nod, she saw the figure that appeared behind her master. Bo Jiu realized it too. Before she could turn around, a clear and cold voice rang in his ears. Master's wife? Isn't that a good title? I'm his master, so of course you're his wife. Bo Jiu pretended to be deep. Otherwise, the seniority would be messed up. Qin Mo smirked, holding on to her wrist as he walked up the stairs. A certain someone still needed to be disciplined behind closed doors. As for the method of discipline, it would always end with marks on Bo Jiu's collarbone. It is still the same today. Bo Jiu raised her head, the curve of her jaw carrying a fragile beauty, but also as handsome as a youngster. She lowered her voice. Her breathing was a little messy, but he could still vaguely hear her saying, softer. Chapter 1603. Bojio felt that the Almighty was being too reserved. He didn't need to wait for the exam to be over. But on second thought, marrying after the exam wasn't a bad idea. Chin Emo glanced at the devilish smile on a certain someone's face. He arched a brow and placed the jacket over her head. It was better not to see this fellow. Especially when her collarbone was exposed, it would always make her lose control. Bojio didn't understand. She pulled the jacket off and was about to speak. Do you want to explain the term mistress? Chin Emo glanced over casually. Bojio smiled, changing the topic naturally. It's princess, it has been affecting my exam papers. Princess, who was eating cat food on the balcony. Tell me, I'm still eating, how did I get implicated? Chin Emo glanced up, glancing towards Princess before his gaze landed on a certain someone's face. He asked slowly, how did it affect you? Whenever I'm writing the exam papers, it would ask me to play with it. If I don't, it would be depressed, Bojio said in a serious tone. Princesses first stood up. Meow meow meow. You were the one who wanted to tease me. I definitely wouldn't be depressed. It's a cat's nature, can you blame me? Bojio smiled lazily. Look, it's asking me to play with it again. Princess. How infuriating, but it couldn't speak. Meow. She must have been really bored to be able to tease a cat like this. Chin Emo raised his finger, pulling her back, his voice calm. Don't bully a cat. Princess. Master, sob sob sob, fortunately, you haven't been seduced by its beauty. Chin Emo continued. I'm delaying your exam papers. Princess. Just pretend it didn't meow. I can't focus if you don't look at me, Bojio replied lazily, her hand still wrapped around Chin Mo's waist with a devilish smile. Princess truly felt that his master was in danger of being slept with by this fellow. But his master didn't think so, instead he enjoyed it. Even though his master didn't show it on his face, his gaze hadn't left her face ever since he entered. Forget it, since a certain someone had fed him dried fish today, he would just treat it as a daily show. But he was willing to bet. If the master was here, this fellow would only look at the master, and not write the examination paper. In any case, he didn't like to study. Of course, Chin Emo knew that, but under normal circumstances, he wouldn't be able to reject a study companion. Especially since it was suggested by a certain someone. Chin Emo unbuttoned his sleeves. How many papers are left? Bojio replied lazily, not much. Chin Emo knew her well. You didn't write much? Bojio saw that she had been exposed so quickly. She leaned back in her chair and smiled suavely. How is that possible? I'm also someone who finished an entire paper. Chin Emo glanced sideways. His expression was calm and his voice was the same. Lord Jio is really amazing. You can only finish 1/20th of the task in an entire day. An ordinary person would be able to write 2 test papers if they just did it casually. How did you waste your time and only write 1? Grandfather Butler, who knocked on the door and came in with tea and snacks, only wanted to laugh when he heard this. Young Master Chin's poisonous tongue always managed to stab young Lord. However, perhaps ordinary people didn't understand, but it was really good to have someone to manage the young master like this. Chapter 1604. In order to prove that she was doing something proper, she whipped out her phone and swiped a few times, a devilish smile on her face. I'm choosing a partner's suit and gown. Since my goddess is getting married, I have to look dashing. Chin Emo glanced at her, his voice faint. Why are you dressed so handsomely for Luolua's wedding? We have to let Poker Face Xiao maintain a sense of danger at all times. Bojio stuffed one hand into her pocket. Chin Emo smirked. Why? Are you planning to kidnap the bride? Bojio held her chin and tilted her head to kiss him. She smiled. Brother Emo, Luoluo is a girl. In other words, you don't have to be jealous at all. The corners of Chin Mo's lips lifted, and he replied nonchalantly. The people calling you hubby on the internet are all girls. They don't mind that you are a girl, and they still want to marry you. What do you think about this? Bojio knew he was referring to the time when someone had confessed to her. Her face was cold and serious. I have a family. External seduction won't work on me. Chin Emo knew that her words couldn't be trusted, but a hint of a smile still flashed across his eyes. Remember what you said. It's the same even if you go to university. You have a family, so you should stay away from your seniors. Bojo wasn't very interested in other people. But for some reason, perhaps because she was about to graduate, she received a lot of love letters. The last time Chin Emo had seen it by accident. Only then did he realize that it was wrong to say that girls were not a threat. A certain someone's face really attracted flowers and butterflies. Not only did he have to guard against the men, but he also had to guard against the girls. He really wanted to hide a certain someone so that no one could see him. Bojo wasn't aware of his thoughts since the Almighty's expression had always been cold and indifferent. The only thing she was thinking about now was that if her father was still here, she would definitely tell her father that she was going to marry the little Princess Chin that she had been yearning for day and night. She was no longer alone. Downstairs, Grandpa Butler's hand that was flipping through the calendar paused for a moment. Then he looked down at the pocket watch in his palm. The day was almost here. The day the master left. Every year at this time, young master would be different from usual. It was probably because he was too young at that time. But within half a year he had to face 3 separations. The young master even firmly believed that his master was not harmed, and that he would bring his wife back one day. However, everyone knew very well in their hearts. That kind of hope was too slim. If master was still here, he would have appeared long ago. Year after year, sometimes people had to give themselves hope if they wanted to move on. The young lord never said that she was born in the dark, wanton and evil. She was so elegant that she could always withdraw from the night scene. But every time he pulled away, he felt even more lonely. The old butler knew all of this. Many people felt that his back view was handsome. He was a lone wolf, unrestrained and unrestrained. No one thought that he once had a family that everyone envied. Her father liked to live off a woman, and always looked like a teenager. Her mother loved to wear professional attire, elegant and beautiful, and would give her the best food to eat. Young master had experienced all of these before. A year after master left, he had seen young master wake up at night. His little figure was curled up on the sofa in the living room, as if he was waiting for someone. He had been waiting for so many years. Chapter 1605. As a qualified housekeeper, Grandfather Butler would definitely tell Chin Emo about this. He even mentioned something else. Young lord went back to look for you and left a letter in your mailbox. Letter? Chin Mo's eyes flashed. Grandfather Butler continued. Actually, young lord probably hoped that you would accompany her back then. After all, the changes were too big. That was the sentence. When Chin Emo walked back to his room, his heart felt a little sluggish. He reached out and hugged the person who had already fallen asleep on the bed. He kissed her hair. He didn't take good care of her. At that time, he shouldn't have left with that thought. Chin Emo stood up and dialed his assistant's number. Prepare 2 plane tickets overseas. MMH for me and her. After her exams, Bojo didn't know about the plane tickets. This day, she woke up earlier than any other day. It was strange. In her previous life, she had never taken exams seriously. This time, she took it seriously. But compared to the other students, Bojo was much more relaxed. Many taxis were free on this day for the students taking the college entrance examination. Some private cars tried their best to avoid the roads with schools. This was to ensure that the roads were clear so that the students could take their exams in peace. There were also medical staff outside the competition grounds. The most obvious one was probably the slender figure who appeared at the school gate on a skateboard. She had silver gray hair and a tear-shaped mole at the corner of her eye. She always gave off a devilish vibe and was very handsome. Many people thought that Bojo wouldn't apply for a school that had a high requirement for results. After all, even if she didn't take the exams, she would still have a good future. But they didn't know that this exam was the key to marrying little Princess Chin. Hence, even when she opened the exam paper, Bojo's side profile was more serious than before. She didn't wear her school uniform today. She wore a pure black t-shirt with earrings. She looked like a vampire prince. Her skin was very white. When her gaze landed, The rustling sound of her pen on the exam paper could be heard. Her handwriting wasn't ugly. It looked like Chinmo's handwriting. This wasn't strange. After all, when she was young, Chinmo held her hand and taught her every stroke. Hence, the handwriting was 70 to 80% similar. Most of the provinces had 2 days for the college entrance exam. For every student, these 2 days were the final struggle. Sleeping early and waking up early had never happened to her before. But for the past 2 days, he had been living a normal life. When the bell for the last round rang, almost every student leaned back in their chair and sighed in relief. Then came the excitement, the uncontrollable excitement, but also a little disappointment in his heart. Bojio didn't feel disappointed at all. Finally, he could marry little Princess Chin above board. Basically, he was thinking about how to take advantage of her. Bojio walked casually with her skateboard. Just as she was deep in thought, she glanced up and saw the person waiting for her. She couldn't help smiling. There was a hint of devilishness as she reached out to hug the Almighty's waist. He reached out and held her wrist. Seeing that she didn't take advantage of him, a hint of a smile flashed across his eyes. The 3 Dharma seals were still faint. Time is tight. Let's hug in the car. Chapter 1606. Chinmo glanced at her. Other than hugging, what else can you do? Behave yourself. Bojio didn't know what to do with the little princess. Fine, behave yourself. But she hadn't expected a chauffeur. Also, the direction wasn't right. Are we going to the airport? Bojio would memorize the entire city map no matter which city she went to. This was a talent she had been nurtured by Mr. Bo since young. Besides, she had been in Jiang City for so long. Of course, she was familiar with the basic route. Chinmo replied calmly. We're going on a business trip. You're considered my luggage. When he said this, Bojio was reminded of her childhood. When he had come back, she had wanted him to treat her as his luggage. She had wanted to hide in the luggage. That was really childish. Business trips were good too. She didn't have to wait for the results. Once the results were out, she would pass the admission requirements. She would ask grandfather Butler to prepare for the wedding. Bojio was indeed treated as his luggage. That was because Chinmo had only brought 1 luggage. When they were changing the boarding pass, Bojio sat on it. Chinmo held onto the luggage handle with 1 hand. You're going to be checked in too? The flight attendants will reject me since I'm so handsome. It's safer to leave me outside. Bojio was still wearing a mask because the movie had been online for a long time. It was easy to meet people who would recognize her. Chinmo held onto her hand. It's not safe to leave you anywhere. Bojio. She wasn't a ticking time bomb. The person walking in front must be a multi-level marketer, Bojio said lazily. I can hack into his phone network and, Chinmo reached out and lifted her chin. Through the mask he kissed her lips. Hacking into his phone network is illegal in China. Kiss me a few more times and I'll consider stopping, Bojio said devilishly. Chinmo pinched her face. When grandfather Butler hears this, he will feel that he has failed to teach you. I'm also tempted by his beauty. Bojio smiled faintly. Chinmo looked at her face, his eyes deepening. Then he pulled her into the corner. Further ahead was the smoking area, which happened to be a blind spot. He reached out to remove a certain someone's mask. When he lowered his eyes, even the strength of his arm around her waist had changed. The tip of his tongue came into contact with a slightly cool touch, and a numb feeling rose from his tailbone in an instant. Then his mind went blank. Bojio thought about it. Back then, if they had only sent him over and used the honey trap to the end, she would have surrendered long ago. It was not good to only look at one's face. Yes, it was indeed not good. But kissing seemed to be able to fascinate people. I want to be closer to you. That way, he would be able to avoid thinking about some dark things. She had said long ago that when one didn't know what warmth was, they probably wouldn't crave it so much. However, after knowing this, even if he was in the dark, he still wanted to be illuminated by the light. Every year at this time, she would feel that everywhere was empty, so she would stay in the nightclub for several days in a row, surrounded by a group of people. Lively places seemed to have this kind of magic. At the very least, it could occupy some of your thoughts and prevent you from thinking about certain things. There should be no more nightmares this year. After kissing, there were sweets to eat. Chapter 1607. When they reached the plain, the person beside him was indeed much more obedient. When Qin Mo turned his head, she was already asleep. Her silver hair fell down and hit the bridge of her nose. She looked strangely obedient. The air stewardess came a few times. Qin Mo indicated that it wasn't necessary. Then he emptied his hand and covered her with a blanket. His eyes paused for a moment as he looked at that face. Sometimes he would always think about it. If he had really taken her away as a piece of luggage back then, wouldn't he have so many regrets if he did that? Whenever he thought about that small figure hugging the keyboard and sleeping when he wasn't around, he would feel an indescribable pain. There would always be an indescribable discomfort. She was still here. She was still here. Qin Mo thought for a moment. He reached out and took the amulet off his neck and put it on her. He caressed Bojio's hair. Then he kissed her lightly. When the air stewardess saw this scene, she felt that it was beautiful. It wasn't like she hadn't seen couples on the plane, but she had never been like this man. He clearly had a cold and noble temperament, but his eyes never moved away from another person. Even the person who was sleeping moved his thin lips. The corners of his mouth would curl up as if he was smiling. How much did a person like another person? He could look at the other person for up to 8 hours and he wouldn't feel tired. Even when he saw the other person's actions, he would want to laugh. Moreover, she had never seen someone with such patience. Little Bojio, drink some water. He fed her personally. Even if she didn't wake up, he had to ensure that she drank water on the plane. After drinking the water, Bojio slept well. The moment she opened her eyes, she felt hungry. Qin Mo peeled a piece of candy for her. We're about to land. Eat after we land. What do you want to eat? Hot pot. Bojio leaned on the small table and smiled. Order 5 servings of beef. Be reserved. The air stewardess listened. This was the first time she saw someone eating hot pot overseas. And 5 servings of beef? Reserved? 5 times more reserved? Qin Mo glanced at her. Bojio heaved a long sigh. Growing people like us eat a lot. You are probably the worst person who has ever been insulted while growing up, Qin Mo said. His long fingers peeled open the packaging of the lunch bag and touched her lips. Bojio tilted her head and said as she ate, exams consume too much energy. We can look for William and get him to treat us. William? Qin Mo chuckled. It seems like you guys are still in contact. Bojio paused in the middle of eating. I've already blacklisted him. I didn't even agree to add him. Why did you blacklist me? Qin Mo replied slowly. We are about to hold our wedding. I will invite him and Hoshino to be the groomsmen. William, still flirting with the blonde in the pool. Why does he suddenly feel a chill on the back of his neck? No matter what. After landing, Qin Mo brought Bojio for a hot pot. Chinatown still had a very strong oriental atmosphere. You should be familiar with the street in front. Qin Mo's voice was calm. Bojio glanced over. We fought there before. Honestly, Brother Mo, did you do a lot of research to catch me? If not, why do you know where I go and have so many tricks up your sleeves? Chapter 1608. Qin Mo glanced at her, his voice calm. What kind of trick are you talking about? Disguising yourself and pointing at the competition video. In the shopping mall, you would boast about how cool you are when you play games with the boss who sells laptops. That kind of trick? That was obviously her dark history. Why would she care about such a dark history? Bojio smiled devilishly. Which genius came up with such a trick? It sounds cool. Qin Mo seemed helpless. He reached out to pinch her face. Little Bojio. MH. Bojio watched his face, her heart itching. She wanted to touch him after she was full. The ancients weren't deceiving. The desire for food and beauty was probably what it meant. Do you want to play a game? Qin Mo stuffed a hand into his pocket, his eyes bright. Bojio pulled herself away from the beauty and looked at him. What game? The last time we came we fought here. I was the one who found you. This time you will find me. What do you think? Qin Emo lowered his gaze. If you find me, I'll be yours. Bojiu arched a brow. I can do whatever I want tonight. In the future, you can do whatever you want. Qin Emo hinted. If your hands are itchy, we can come overseas. After all, you are Z. Bojiu understood that he was giving up something for her, but she didn't want to let go. He was hers. Besides, he was the one who agreed. How do we play the game? She was best at games. I will give you hints. Solve the hints before the sky turns dark, and you will be able to find me. Qin Emo looked at her. I might not be able to find you after the sky turns dark. Bojiu glanced at the time. Where is the hint? It's in William's hands. Bojiu felt that he was trying to trick her again. Qin Emo saw through her thoughts. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. William, who was about to lay down, was startled. He wanted to curse in Chinese. Why did the devil call him at this time? Hello. William tried his best to show his imposing manner. Qin Emo was nonchalant. Are you at the Royal Family Hotel? Oh no. Why did this person, who looked like an Eastern prince but was actually a demon, know his position so well? You sent someone to follow me again, Qin. Friends don't do that. William argued. You Asians should be very cultured. Qin Emo automatically ignored his words. Jill will find you in 20 minutes. There's something I want to give her in your bag. Give it to her. 9? You mean Gio? William immediately straightened his body and pretended to be a gentleman as he paced back and forth. I have to choose a suit. You know, she's my white moonlight, Qin Emo scoffed. William, do you want the adult me to break your legs again? Hey, it's true, brother. You're being too cruel. I'm treating Gio now. In your Eastern language, my thoughts are very pure. I don't have any bad intentions. I just don't know if Gio will be excited when she sees me. It could be said that William's desire to live was very strong. Qin Mo's voice softened. You're thinking too much. Nothing about your looks can excite her. These words stung his heart. Why had Gio liked pretty boys since she was young? How did he lose? Chapter 1609. Did you hear that? Qin Emo glanced at the person beside him. Bojiu arched a brow. Why do you have William's contact details? It's convenient for him to be my best man, Qin Emo replied slowly. Bojiu laughed. Brother Emo, you're hurting me. Little William thinks his friendship touched you. Qin Emo pinched her face again. Just take the things and don't play with others. You don't have much time, understand? When did I play with others? Bojiu was devilish. I'll definitely solve the game seriously later. Qin Emo looked at her. You go first. I'll leave after you enter the building. This way she couldn't play any tricks. Bojiu felt regretful. I won't follow you secretly. Do you believe what you're saying? Qin Emo stuffed his hands into his pockets. Bojiu smiled faintly and turned around. I'll definitely find you. Brother Emo, wash yourself up and wait for me. When Qin Emo heard this, he raised his beautiful eyebrows. Little Tiger Bo was always confused about her position in the world. Young master. The shadow that had been following behind them appeared. The things are prepared. They're at the back of the car. Qin Emo replied indifferently. MMH. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he waited until the shadow walked further away until he couldn't see it anymore. Then he walked in the opposite direction. Parked outside the crowd was a limited edition Lamborghini. On the surface it looked expensive, but in reality, the most unusual thing about it was that it could speak. Devil, why are you alone? The rearview mirror reflected the surroundings. Where's my master? Qin Emo opened the car door and sat in the driver's seat. His side profile was handsome and elegant. She's playing a game. Aren't we waiting for her? As an intelligent sports car, it is very loyal. Qin Emo pressed the steering wheel with one hand and turned it. Let's wait somewhere else. Where? Little Blackie was confused. Some of the programs couldn't be answered, but it knew that someone had placed something behind it. The devil was definitely going to do something to its master. At this moment, Bojiu walked into the Royal Hotel. Even though she didn't have the room card, It was easy for her to take the receptionist's card. After all, no one would have too much resistance to a handsome young man in a black jacket. Bojo raised her hand and pressed the floor button, thinking about the possible clues that might appear. William was still thinking of ways to get rid of his female companion. He couldn't let Gio see this side of him. Gio would definitely misunderstand. Seriously, that devil Chin Mo. Why didn't he tell Gio to come? Baby, listen to me, William said to his female companion, who was hugging his arm and refusing to let go. I really can't do it today. Let's do it another day. The female companion didn't want to leave. After all, this was William. How do I know if you'll ask someone else out on another day? William wanted to say something. There was a swoosh. The door swung open. A tall and slender figure walked towards the swimming pool. The youth's hair was grayish-silver, and there was a hint of evil in his handsomeness. The black jacket on that person gave off a dark and mysterious aura. Chapter 16:10. Most importantly, that person didn't seem to be embarrassed at all. Instead, he grabbed a white wooden chair and placed it next to the swimming pool. He sat on it and said to the female companion beside him, I need to borrow this person for a few minutes. After a few minutes, you guys can continue to be intimate, okay? Honestly speaking, his female companion's eyes had been fixated on this person ever since he had entered. Now he was even more overboard. He actually looked like he was in full bloom. This first. Before William could finish his sentence, Bojo interrupted him. When you were young, I really couldn't tell that you had such a good taste. When you were young? Gio? William's back trembled. Bojo supported her chin lazily. It's me. Tell me, what did Momo put here? Gio, we haven't seen each other for a long time. You don't know that ever since you left, I haven't had any appetite. William basically used all the Chinese idioms he knew. Bojo raised her eyebrows. Brother, look at the time. What time? William was slightly confused. Shouldn't they be reminiscing about the past? In China, etiquette was the most important. Bojo spoke slowly. I have to decipher the clues before the sky turns dark. So William, be more honest. What did he ask you to do? William blinked. He wanted to reach out for a hug. Gio, I don't think you should be so anxious. William. Bojo accepted his hug and smiled. If you want to be beaten up by me, you can continue wasting time. If I can't marry Momo, I might accidentally destroy your house. William instantly froze. He believed Gio's words. When they were young, the devil had used this point. Why didn't Gio change after they grew up? William inhaled deeply. He had a big head and red hair. He looked aggrieved. He just asked me to take something. I haven't opened it yet. You know that I'm really traumatized by your devil MO. I don't dare to touch that thing. What if it's a bomb? Gio, really, he isn't like what you think. He's a little princess. You don't know how scary he was when he was young. He's so handsome. He's a little princess. Bojo patted his back. Give it to me. William was speechless. He had completely lost hope in this world that only cared about appearances. Besides, he wasn't bad either. Looking at his reflection in the pool, he was also very handsome. The Easterners really don't know how to appreciate them. William took out a box dejectedly. That devil, could it be a ring? Bojo didn't reply. She opened it and took the item out. This game, Super Mario? Didn't you like playing before? William didn't understand. He tried his best to wrap the scarf around himself. After all, no matter how handsome Nine was, she was still a girl. She was still his white moonlight. Why did the devil give you this? Bojo didn't reply, her gaze landing at the side. There's a game console here? How do you know? The Royal Hotel is different from other hotels. It's the only hotel that provides an antique game console for everyone. William said excitedly. Bojo took the game plug and walked over. Gio, what are you doing? Chapter 16:11. Anyone who had played Super Mario when they were young would know. There were 8 levels in the game, and each level had 4 small levels. But players could find the sky-climbing vines to choose levels. For example, the second level of the first level could be skipped directly to the first level of the fourth level. In the second level of the fourth level, there were hidden gold coins and sky-climbing vines that could be skipped directly to the 8th level. If it was someone else, it would definitely take a long time to clear the 8 levels. Some people couldn't even clear the levels when they grew up. But to Bojio, she was very familiar with this game, and had even studied the programming code. She knew where the hidden compartment was. She sat on the carpet, holding the game controller, and controlling the character in the game. At that time, the game wasn't as cool and vivid as it was now. It was just a little person with something on top of her head, jumping over all the obstacles and moving forward. But even so, William was already dazzled by the scene. After all, he had played Super Mario when he was young. Why hadn't he realized that it was possible to skip levels? And Gio's operation was too nice. However, William wasn't too surprised by this. After all, Gio was good at playing games when she was young. Very quickly, Bojio reached the 8th level. The scene entered. Suddenly it was blank. Then a photo appeared. It was when she was young. She was wearing a tiger costume, and seemed to be waiting for water to feed her. Bojio didn't have any impression of this picture. Then, the scene returned to the game. It was just that this game had been reprogrammed. Bojio controlled the character. Every time she took a step forward and hit an obstacle, a corresponding sentence would appear. I like you. I liked you when I was young. I liked you when I grew up. Little Bojio, Madam Chin. Come and get your sweets. Bojio couldn't help but smile. William's eyes widened. F***ck. Do Asians use this method to confess their love nowadays? That devil didn't seem like someone who would do such a thing. This was no different from coaxing a child. But Gio fell for this trick. Seriously. William inhaled deeply. He was speechless. The game ended here. There weren't any other levels. This meant that they had passed. But the clues. Bojio glanced at the words. Finally, she lowered her gaze and pulled out all her memories. After sifting through many, only the Royal Hotel was left. 9. William tilted his head in confusion. Bojio suddenly stood up and opened the fridge. It was a must for star-rated hotels. However, after opening the fridge, Bojio's fingers stilled. William grabbed his hair and said, "Who changed everything in the fridge into sugar? Aren't there only some sugar here?" But under so many brightly colored skins of sugar, there was only one, and it was very eye-catching. It was made of black sugar with a Z logo on it. Bojio reached out and took the candy out. Then she realized it was a small message device. This kind of thing, ordinary people really could not get their hands on. But she often used it. Bojio took it, pushed her fingers upwards and turned on the switch. Then a noble and deep voice, with a magnetic texture, slowly came out from inside. Chapter 16:12. In the cartoon, Ding Dang accompanied Big Xiong for 80 years. Before Big Xiong died, he said to Ding Dang, "After I leave, you can go back to where you belong." Ding Dang agreed. After Big Xiong died, Ding Dang used the time machine to go back 80 years. She said to the young Big Xiong, "Hello Big Xiong, I'm Ding Dang." The low and deep aura, when transmitted through the recorder, always gave people a very unreal feeling. Bojio listened, not missing a word. Just when she thought it was over, the voice paused. "Little Bojio, there's a Ding Dang waiting for you now. Do you want to take him away and keep him at home?" As a bystander, this was the first time William completely felt the charm of the Eastern language. Inexplicably, he was reminded of his childhood. At that time, he was really afraid and couldn't stand the hypocritical Eastern prince. But suddenly one day, Gio moved away. The villa not far away no longer had lights. William was also very disappointed at that time. But he was just disappointed. Anyone would be unhappy for 2 days when their best friend disappeared. William felt that the Eastern prince was the same. But later, he knew he was wrong. Because one day, he was blocked by the Eastern prince in the corner. William really thought that this guy wanted to expose his devil nature when others weren't around. Unexpectedly, he didn't take action. Instead, he looked at him. After a while he said, "Where did she go?" William saw that the other party's mood wasn't right. He didn't know where Gio was, but he wanted to teach the arrogant Eastern prince a lesson. He immediately raised his chin. Why should I tell you? We aren't friends. Do you remember when you hit me? I was wrong. The very small person lowered his voice. So where is she? At that time, William felt that it was unbelievable. After all, the Eastern prince was a scheming person. Usually, he would know that he was talking nonsense. But that day he didn't know why. He actually didn't notice anything. He even said to him, I was wrong. William was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. In the end, he could only blush and tell the truth. He didn't know where Gio went. He thought he would really get beaten up. But that person didn't do anything. But after that, William would occasionally see a small shadow standing in front of the Bow family's door. Everyone said that Mr. Ann's grandson was gentlemanly and polite, a living successor of an aristocratic family. But when he stood in front of the Bow family's house, William could only think of a very poor vocabulary. Cold and lonely. It was as if he had been abandoned by the whole world. Many people seemed to have forgotten about Gio. The figure would still be standing there. So much so that even William could not forget his childhood friend. Because she had been waiting for someone. Later, the An family moved their business center back to China. Even so, every year, William would receive a call from that person. She had beaten him in elementary school and in middle school. The only thing she had asked him was whether he had seen the Bow family come back. After that, he didn't call for 3 years. William thought that he had given up. Later, he learned from Old Master and that he had lost his memory. Chin Mo was truly a devil. He had never changed since he was young. However, there was one thing that had not changed. Chapter 16:13. To her, liking Chin Mo was like a child who didn't have any candy. At first, she just wanted a piece of candy so that she could continue to taste sweetness in her life. She wanted to know what it felt like to like. She wasn't greedy. From that day onwards, when she hugged her little keyboard to sleep, she had learned not to be greedy. In the past, she had been too greedy. But now she had nothing. But he had given her a bag of candy. It seemed as though it would exist as long as she stretched her hand out. She wouldn't have to worry about it disappearing one day. Boju lowered her lids, her silver hair covering her eyes. William couldn't see her expression. Was it too difficult for Gio to solve? Why did that devil recite a clip from a movie about Doraemon? What was he thinking? Even if Gio loved to watch cartoons when she was young, she should have been straightforward. Why did he have to find clues? But what exactly was the clue? William was interested in the game. He touched his chin and studied it. Boju stood up and looked down at him. Car keys. William was still in a daze. Boju slung her black jacket over her shoulders and reached out. Your car keys, I'm going to look for someone. William's eyes widened. You know where he is? Boju replied lazily, William tightened the towel around him. He leaped over and dug out the car keys, tossing them to her even though he was a man and didn't need to be embarrassed. But he had only worn a pair of black underwear for his female companion. Gio's way of entering had been too domineering. He hadn't even had the time to wear his clothes. He had been wrapped in a towel until now. He was curious. How did you know where he is? Didn't the devil just recite a clip from a movie? No, there are many other clues. You are one of the clues. Boju took the car keys and prepared to leave. William followed behind. I'm one of the clues? You Super Mario Doraemon. Boju glanced back, a devilish aura emanating from her. It's all related to when I was young. He was telling me that life is like the first time we met. He did it. He has been waiting for me at that place, waiting for me to return. William was stunned. That place? Could it be? Before he could voice out his conjecture, the slender figure had already disappeared around the corner. The receptionist in front of the Royal Hotel was talking to the guest, asking him if he needed to park his car. A red light flashed before his eyes. The wig on top of his head was blown away by the wind. Which customer was driving so fast? This was speeding. Boju didn't look behind, she didn't have the time. It was going to be dark soon. There was still a long way to go. Therefore, she had to be fast. Thus on this day, in the long silent Fifth Avenue, once again the siren sounded. This was because a red convertible was not only driving very fast, but even when it encountered a roadblock, it didn't even stop and directly drove past it. When the local officers on duty saw this scene, they got into their cars, shifted gears, and chased after them. It had been a long time since he had seen such a scene. He dared to continue accelerating under the hot pursuit of the police. He had no intention of turning back. She even did a beautiful flick of her tail. She shook off the 3 cars chasing her. Her movements were handsome and arrogant, the smooth arc of the car shuttling between the cars. Her flamboyance was impeccable. The radio station did the corresponding broadcast. Chapter 16:14. Who is he? A young man who wasn't sure asked. Then she heard someone say, Z, it must be him. He's too cool. Z. The young man widened his eyes. It's really Z? The legendary Z. Other than him, there's no one else who can drive like that, and the police can't do anything to him at this time. It wasn't hard to hear the excitement in his voice. It seemed like the MC was a fan of Z too. It wasn't just the MC. When the name Z was mentioned, Mo Chen's eyes lit up. Even the people watching the screen had all sorts of reactions. Z. Z was actually back. Did that mean that the Matrix was going to rise again? No one noticed. Just as this video was being broadcasted, not far away, a man in a suit, who gave off a lazy and elegant aura, held a cigarette between his fingers as his lips curled up into a smile. Uncle, why are you smiling? Nothing. That person retracted his gaze. He seemed to be distracted and shallow. Compared to some people's revelry, William was really in pain. His phone had been ringing nonstop since a while ago. Every message was related to his car. Violation, violation, and violation. William's eyes widened, and he grabbed his hair. Gio, what on earth did you drive my car to? At this moment, Bogio had already disappeared from everyone's sight. In the past, she had been a low-profile black. Now she was an arrogant red. But no matter which color she was, the appearance of this person meant that the Fifth Avenue would become different again. Some people didn't welcome Z's return, especially the hidden power and money transactions. Didn't they say that the hacker alliance had collapsed? Why did this person appear again? A certain gang boss in the Fifth Avenue, who was usually their nemesis for the nightclub territory, didn't fight for the goods. Instead, he made an unprecedented phone call. It was because Z had appeared again. The two bosses temporarily put aside their grudges. They were seriously thinking about how to guard against Z. However, no one knew that they wouldn't just have to guard against Z. The hardest to deal with would be the person beside Z. More importantly, Bogio didn't have time to deal with these people. Now she only wanted to see her little princess Chin and tell him that she hadn't changed. The sports car skimmed over the bridge, its body flashing. With another turn, it drove directly into the villa area. It was already dark. Bogio lifted her lids and looked into the distance. Because many years had passed, looking at this place now, he felt that it was somewhat different from before. But when she got closer, she realized that the small courtyard surrounded by white logs, the lawn, and the two-story attic gave Bogio an illusion. It was as if the moment he turned around, he would be able to see the person he once knew. The moonlight gradually shone down. Bogio walked forward until she reached the innermost villa. A Chinese character was carved on the wooden sign on the fence. The word thin was clearly visible. A familiar slender figure was standing by the fence, with one hand in his pocket, and the other holding a piece of paper. That piece of paper should have just been taken out of the mailbox, and he could still see the traces on it. Bogio paused and glanced over. Chapter 16:15. Bogio suddenly smiled. Her silver hair swayed with the wind. She looked lazy and unruly. Originally, she wanted to walk over and hug him. Then, she would start taking advantage of him. After all, a certain Almighty had said that as long as she found him, he would be hers. Unexpectedly, before she could do anything, she was pulled into his arms. As she breathed, She could smell the fruity aroma of the trees mixed with the minty tobacco on his body. Bojio had always been thick-skinned. After she was hugged, she wrapped her arms around his waist. I was always worried that we wouldn't make it in time. I didn't expect the sky to turn dark. It's okay if it turns dark. Chinemo lowered his gaze. We can still wait for a long time. Bojio looked at him. Then is he mine? I've been yours for a long time. Chinemo lowered his voice, his eyes filled with emotions. After he read the letter, he understood that he wasn't the only one who was upset back then. There were even some typos in the letter. But it didn't affect the meaning she wanted to express. Momo, don't be angry, okay? I'm in a very big castle now. Although Grandpa Butler said that Grandpa would definitely not agree, I still want to ask you, are you willing to stay in the castle with me? I can buy you a lot of writing brushes. Don't you like to write? If you are willing, write back to me. I will definitely come back to get them. Chinemo looked at Momo and said, Momo, I miss you so much. There is no one here to buy me candy to eat, and no one to help me roll up my sleeves. I have already wet a few pieces of my clothes when I was washing my face. I know that you are angry that I went out with William, but I didn't go out to play. Because I was worried that something would happen to my father and mother, I went to pray. Chinemo didn't know how she felt when she came back to get the letter. But the moment he closed his eyes, he seemed to see her wearing little tiger pajamas. She was washing her face with great effort. Her sleeves were always wet, but she was alone because no one was helping her. He remembered that his grandfather had asked him in the past. Was he really going to treat little Tiger Bo so well? At that time, he had thought that since he had decided to raise the child, he had to raise her well. Moreover, a certain someone was extremely stupid. If he didn't raise her well, who would? But he didn't do it. The words on the letter were all crooked. Even his tone was very childish. At that time, was there no one else besides Grandfather Butler by her side? He had told himself that he would take good care of her, but he had failed to do so. Chinemo tightened his grip, his breath landing beside her ear. His voice was magnetic. Little Bojio, let's get married. Marriage? Bojio's eyes sparkled. Now, didn't they say that he wasn't of legal age? Chinemo pushed her hair aside with his fingers. We'll get married overseas first. Can I get married twice? Bojio smiled lightly. All right. Chinemo lowered his lids and planted a kiss on her hair. An old granny lived in the villa next door. When she came in, she saw this scene. She had chatted with the tall young man and asked him why he was standing here and not going in. He said he was waiting for his wife. She asked why they didn't go somewhere to wait. The young man said that his wife would not be able to see him. He wanted that person to be able to see him as soon as he arrived. Chapter 16:16. Old Master and rarely came to the Yin family's side anymore. But he left a butler. It wasn't hard to tell who gave the order. Because even the Bo family's house was cleaned and tidy every day. It was still the same, as though no one had left. After Chinemo lost his memory, he had never returned. The butler who stayed had changed from a young man to a gentleman. When he saw Chinemo, the surprise in his eyes was obvious. Chinemo had asked him if anyone from the Bo family had returned. He had shook his head every time. But recently, for some reason, the surveillance footage hadn't been good. But the butler didn't think it was a big problem. The things inside hadn't been missing, so he hadn't mentioned it to Chinemo. Dinner was prepared by a Chinese chef that she had brought over. It was still Chinese food. It wasn't because of anything else but because a certain someone liked to eat it. Hence, before he came, Chinemo had asked the Yin family chef to fly over in advance. Old Master Yin was happy. Before the chef left, he instructed several times to make more delicious food for little Gio. When Bojio was eating, she was lazy and didn't do anything out of line. She just kept sending text messages. The main target was Lin Feng. Give me a gift. Lin Feng still had a lot of documents to sign. The moment he tugged his collar, he saw the message and was slightly confused. What gift? My captain's gift. You have to give me a double. Bojio replied with chopsticks in her mouth. Lin Feng chuckled. Little spade, you aren't of legal age yet, why are you giving me a gift? We'll get married tomorrow. Bojio typed. Abroad. No matter how Lin Feng heard it, she sounded like she was showing off. He stood up instantly. Yun Hu, who was sitting beside him, pushed his gold-rimmed spectacles up the bridge of his nose nonchalantly. Lin Feng didn't know what he was thinking about. He glanced over. Hey Hu, why don't we go out and get married? Yun Hu's fingers paused. He glanced up, his voice slow. Get married? Lin Feng had blurted out that sentence. Now he felt that it wasn't realistic. It was all Little Spade's fault. Cough, I was just joking. How can we get married? Lin Feng sat down. His face was a little flushed. He was indeed too impulsive. No matter what, they were different from others. Recently, he had heard that the Yun family intended to let Hu Zi enter the government. If that was the case, marriage was indeed too unrealistic. After all, the environment was completely different, and it would affect him. Unlike him, he didn't have so many considerations when doing business. But why was there a vague sense of disappointment in his heart? It was probably because of Yun Hu's reaction. Lin Feng told himself not to worry about personal gains and losses. Wasn't it just marriage? What was so good about it? He took a document and continued to sign it. The conference room returned to silence. Yun Hu didn't say anything. After signing a few documents, Lin Feng felt a tightness in his chest. He tugged at his tie, grabbed a cigarette, and walked into the smoking room. He didn't know that behind him, Yun Hu had picked up his phone and sent 2 words to the person on the other end. Thanks. Chapter 16-17. Our flight is the day after tomorrow. Bojiu arched a brow. Senior Lin doesn't know. I think so. Yun Hu glanced at the closed smoking room. He didn't respond at all when I asked for his information. Bojiu thought to herself. He was still suffering, he didn't even know that his flight ticket had been booked. She smiled and returned to the previous chat, her eyes filled with mischief. Senior Lin, how's your counterattack plan? Very quickly, a reply came. What's the rush? One day, I'll sleep with Yun Hu until he's satisfied. Is that so? Bojiu replied slowly, not believing him at all. I wish you success. I have a plan these 2 days. Lin Feng took a puff of his cigarette. He can forget about escaping. Regardless of whether they got married or not, this person could only be his. He would sleep with him the next day. Bojiu reminded him. Don't be suppressed. Are you joking? Who do you think I am? His blind confidence made Bojiu's gaze even more playful. She felt as though she was about to witness a good show. But before she could encourage Senior Lin, his phone was taken away. He glanced at her faintly. Madam Qin, it's dinner time now. I don't think I need to remind you to use your phone. With that, he picked up a piece of chicken and sent it to her lips. Bojiu opened her mouth and ate it, smiling faintly. Brother Emo, since we are getting married, can we do that thing? What thing? Qin Emo asked slowly. His long and fair fingers finished peeling the prawn, dipping it into the seasoning before feeding it naturally. As Bojiu ate, she leaned over. Her handsome face, the cleanness of a youngster, was mixed with a devilish air. Our wedding night. Bang. The butler, who was wearing white gloves, walked over with a bottle of red wine. He was about to refill their glasses when he heard Bojiu's words, knocking his head against the wall. As a butler who had lived in the Yin family for so many years, his current level of Chinese was enough to understand the meaning of our wedding night. But didn't the Asians say that they were reserved? Why does Miss Jiu seem to be the same as when she was young? She doesn't know how to be reserved at all. After all, young master was often pounced on by Miss Jiu at that time. But the young master now. The butler turned his head to observe his young master's reaction. Unexpectedly, young master just wiped the corner of his mouth with a napkin, his expression noble and cold. Sure. The butler felt that at this moment, he should have disappeared. He was the only one with a weaker tolerance. Bojiu wanted to drink another glass of red wine. Unexpectedly, Chinemo held her wrist and stood up. He lowered his eyes to look at her. Aren't we going to consummate our marriage? Now. Why did it feel like the Almighty was more anxious than her? Bojiu glanced up. Chinemo lowered his voice. Have you ever heard of the phrase, no waiting after the deadline? Bojo smiled and stood up. Now was the time. Anyway, when she saw him standing under the streetlight, her hands started to itch. The Almighty's temperament was so cold that it made people want to beat him up. Chin Emo glanced sideways at the person beside him. She looked as though she had stolen honey, and was smiling wickedly. His thin lips lifted. She didn't even bother to hide her desire to take advantage of him. Since that was the case. Chapter 16:18. Bojo didn't know what Chin Emo was thinking. She only heard him ask, "Shall we bathe together?" The devilish smile on his face deepened. With a unique laziness he replied, "Sure." After all, the Almighty in the bathroom was a feast for the eyes. The In family's villa overseas had a huge bathtub and floor-to-ceiling windows on the other side. She could see the lights below. The bathtub was filled with fresh roses and white foam. Beside the bathtub was a bottle of red wine that had been chilled. "Do you still want to drink?" Chin Emo tilted his head. Bojo smiled faintly. She placed one hand on the side of the bathtub. "No, it's a waste of time." Chin Emo glanced at her but didn't move. With a swoosh, she pushed him into the bathtub. After his suit was soaked, he looked more handsome and abstinent than ever before. Even though he looked cold, there was a hint of sexiness that made people want to lay their hands on him. Such sexiness coupled with Chin Mo's face was indeed enough to make one's heart itch. Bojo smiled faintly. She lowered her lids and kissed the water droplets on his face. Chin Emo arched a brow. He could feel her hands landing on the button of his shirt. He didn't stop her. Instead, he looked at her, his dark eyes a little heavy. Bojo noticed this. Her lips curved upwards as she kissed his neck. Then she moved upwards and kissed his ear. Chin Mo's fingers moved. His back straightened and his gaze deepened. Bojo felt that the Almighty, who was at her mercy, was too tempting. It was true that beauty could fool people. It was also true that a beauty coming out of the bath was especially tempting. Especially now. His suit was wet and his black hair fell down. He didn't look down at all. Instead, he made her want to bite his neck. Bojo did it. Kisses were always pleasing, especially when he cooperated. To Bojo, sitting on someone's body and kissing him here, and there was probably the best way to take advantage of him. It was a delightful feeling. But to Chin Emo, this was far from enough. How could it be? He wanted to hug her fiercely. He wanted her to only have him in her eyes. This thought had never stopped. So, how could a mere kiss satisfy him? The electric curtains on the floor-to-ceiling windows had been pressed by someone. Bojo focused on the delicacy in her mouth. From a light kiss to a deep one. The tip of her tongue still carried the faint scent of red wine. He gently sucked, and the familiar numbness from her tailbone made her body tremble. He didn't know when, but he had become the leader. He reached out his hand, held the back of her head, and began to crazily attack the city. The water in the tub seemed hotter. Bojo's thoughts were burnt to a crisp. In the mirror he saw their reflections. Both his suit and Bojo's t-shirt were drenched. Black hair and silver hair, mixed together. When his hands were on her waist, Bojo's mind was filled with snowflakes as his hand reached inside. Bojo felt numb, her eyes glazed over. Chapter 16:19. Faintly, the sounds around her gradually disappeared. At the start, she could still hear the wind outside, but after that, she couldn't hear anything except each other's beating hearts. Unknowingly, the t-shirt on her body had been soaked in the water. It floated on the surface of the water like a blooming, enchanting flower, looking extremely beautiful. His hand pressed against hers, as if he was intentionally guiding her to place her fingertips on his trousers. Even the breath beside her ear was hot. Their positions didn't change. She was still on top. But this made Bojo more passive. The water in the bathtub swayed and ripples formed. When his breath seeped in, Bojo felt her entire body go numb. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She bit down on her thin lips, and even the corners of her eyes were slightly red. The water droplets from the ripples landed on her porcelain white collarbone. This made Chin Mo's body tense to the extreme. Even his eyes were dyed red. Chin Mo wanted to take it slow, but in the end he couldn't help it. He held onto her waist and used a lot of strength. Bojio trembled. The numbness was like a storm, sweeping her entire body along with the water. It was hot everywhere. She wanted to move, but she couldn't use any strength in her arms and legs. It was so urgent and close. It made her whole body go numb. Bojio wanted to grab onto something, but his fingers interlocked and held it in his hands. Hugging the person she liked would probably cause her to sink. Little Bojio. His voice was deep as he called her name continuously. His strength increased, causing Bojio to sink deeper and deeper. She couldn't resist at all. Instead, the numbness made her want to get closer and tighter to him. She could see the sweat on his forehead and the tense side of his face. Once his abstinence was broken, it was a charming handsomeness. She liked this kind of beauty because only she could see him like this. It was a taboo bewitchment. It was as though she had dyed the high and mighty god with a tinge of darkness. The temperature of the entire bathroom was rising. The fog was rising everywhere. The water in the bathtub surged out again and again, spilling out of the bathtub. The rose petals stuck to her body, accentuating the Z tattoo on her waist, making it look devilishly beautiful. Bojio could only follow his movements, falling into a trance. Finally, he stopped. Bojio's hands were weak, and she wanted to push him away. He whispered into her ear, "You're not the one who wants to be on top, huh? Not this way." Bojio's breathing was in a mess. Chinemo kissed her neck. "Which method is it?" "I'll lead." Bojio's eyes lit up. Chinemo took the opportunity when she was in a daze to press down on her waist. "You're too weak. It's not fun. But your current state makes me want to destroy you." Bojio bit down on her lips, as if that was the only way she could stop herself from making a sound. Bojio frowned, biting her lips even harder. He waved his finger over, and his voice was low and coaxing. "Call me by my name, and I'll let you go." Chapter 16:20. Chinmo's eyes widened. It was as though the only way to relieve the deep desire was to hug her tightly in his arms. The last thread broke when she lowered her eyes. Needless to say, those seductive black eyes. Chinemo turned his hand quickly. He didn't want to let her enjoy herself anymore. Instead, he pushed her against the edge of the bathtub. She couldn't hear any other sounds. There was only his panting and the sound of her name over and over again. When she came back to her senses, he had already carried her up and placed her on the bed. His voice was still deep. "You're right. We shouldn't stop." Compared to the previous 2 times, he didn't have to worry anymore. This time he seemed to be more unrestrained. He knew how to make a woman happy. He was like a demon who specialized in bewitching people. He tore apart the layer of elegance and nobility. Enough. Her breathing was hurried. She wanted him to slow down. But he pressed against the deepest part of her. "Is it really enough?" Bojio didn't say anything. After a heavy tremble, her fingertips gripped the pure white bedsheets beneath her. Her snow-white skin had a faint blush. No one came to disturb her. Hence, she didn't have to care about anything else. The sound from the European-style bed echoed in the entire bedroom. It didn't seem like it was going to stop. Bojio really underestimated the man's explosive power after enduring for a period of time. She couldn't resist at all. And after enduring for so long, Chinemo definitely wouldn't let go of the person in his arms. These few days, all the images he could imagine were put into action. It wasn't as simple as holding her in his arms and bullying her. He didn't use any protective measures. In the past, he was worried that he would hurt her. He didn't just use protective measures. He would even take a cold shower after he was done with her. But this time he didn't do anything. He didn't control himself. Instead, when she was in a daze again, he lowered his voice and said in her ear, "Give birth to a child that belongs to us, Mrs. Chin." Because of this sentence, Bojio's eyes focused again. There was an unprecedented light in her eyes. Okay. She probably decided to have a child. Hence that night, Chinemo didn't let go of Bojio. He didn't stop until she couldn't take it anymore. He carried her horizontally and entered the bathroom. Very gently. Just like before, when he lost his memory, he squatted beside the bathtub and cleaned the traces on her body. Chapter 1621. The cleaning didn't take long. Men who had been in the army usually had good stamina. Moreover, Chinemo had come from the special forces. Hence, it didn't affect him much. He reached out and pulled the towel over, wrapping it around her body. Then he bent down and carried her out of the bathtub. She moved a little, feeling a little resistant. Chinemo lowered his lids and kissed the corner of her eye. His voice was still hoarse, but there was a pampering tone that wasn't present in front of others. "Stop fooling around, I'll take you to bed." The person in his arms relaxed her body. When she wrapped her arms around Chinemo's waist, she didn't forget to say, "Mine." "It's yours." Chinemo ran his fingers through her hair. After he placed her on the bed, he couldn't help kissing her forehead. He probably wouldn't be able to find such a possessive person. At this moment, Bojio was still lazy. She was half asleep and didn't feel any difference in her body. Instead, the person she was hugging had a slightly cold skin, which was suitable for sleeping. When she woke up the next day, her back was sore. She wanted to lie on the sofa, not wanting to move at all. Why did she eat more than him when they were both eating the same food? Why was his stamina so much better than hers? Bojio's long legs were placed on the sofa. She supported her chin as she drank the milk. When she looked at Chinemo, there was an obvious gloominess in her eyes. At the end of the day, she was lacking in stamina. If she really wanted to do anything to the Almighty, she would have to rely on some special methods. But this was her territory anyway. The Fifth Avenue was nearby. She would be able to get some things. After she recovered, she would go to the Black Brothers and ask for some special ones. She would use them all on the Almighty. When Bojio was halfway through her drink, her gaze landed on Chinemo, who was helping her to blow the medicinal soup. Her gaze deepened. Chinemo took a glance and knew what she was thinking. He used the spoon to touch her lips. "Don't do anything bad these 2 days, understand? Do I still have the energy to do bad things in this state?" Bojio took a sip. It was too bitter. She leaned over and touched his lips. "What's that taste?" Chinemo arched a brow. "It's bitter." Bojio leaned her head against his shoulder lazily. "How long are we going to drink?" Chinemo lowered his lids to look at a certain someone who wanted to be naughty even after drinking medicine. After thinking for a moment, he drank the medicine, pinched her chin and kissed her. Bojio chuckled lightly. She savored the taste and smiled devilishly. "Brother Emo, you're getting better. I realize you're getting more and more undisciplined," Chinemo said as he wiped her thin lips with a napkin. "Does your back still hurt?" Bojio arched a brow. "It hurts. That would probably make the Almighty feel guilty." "Oh." Chinemo stood up, adjusting his sleeves. "I won't be carrying you to the wedding venue." "Bojio." Chinemo looked at her expression and suddenly laughed again. He lowered his lids. "Is it really painful or fake?" "Forget about the pain. I just want to kiss you until your legs turn to jelly." Bojio narrowed her eyes. Chinemo caressed her head. "There is a difference between dreaming and dreaming." After saying that, he brought over another bowl of food. Bojio pursed her lips, feeling slightly depressed. "There's more?" Chapter 1622. Give birth? That was when Bojio remembered what she had promised him last night. She personally liked the little bean the most. It was just that she had never thought that one day she would have a child. Now that the Almighty had mentioned it, her eyes lit up. Drinking this is good for giving birth. Bojio didn't like red dates, but she was very cooperative now. Chinemo looked at her and arched a brow. "You seem very happy?" "Of course." Bojio didn't hide it at all. She kissed the side of his face. "I like babies. Brother Mo, you have to work hard." Chinemo smirked. "How hard? Are you sure?" Bojio's waist hurt from his smirk. She nestled in his arms and drank the red date tea in one gulp. It was wisest not to speak now. Chinemo lowered his head and glanced at the person in his arms. He could faintly hear her voice. "You can't drink that wine, it's not good for the baby." She sounded as though she was already pregnant. But it seemed like she really liked it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible for her to be smiling. She was reading a lot of things and every single one of them was related to children. She even became nonchalant when he asked her questions. Chin Mo's eyes deepened. He took her phone and placed it at the side. Why hadn't he thought of it before? Just the appearance of little Mo Bei was enough to divert her attention. If there was another child, Chin Mo suddenly regretted it. His voice was calm and emotionless. There's no need to rush. We can talk about it 2 years later. We have to let nature take its course. Is that so? Bojo smiled mischievously. Anyway, it shouldn't be difficult if she wanted to. It seemed like she still had to find something from the Black brothers. After all, the person in front of her wasn't easy to sleep with. Yes. Chin Mo pinched her face. Don't think of any other tricks. Behave. Bojo arched a brow. I'm very obedient. I'm asking little Bei to attend our wedding. After all, her master has finally married her master's wife. Let her be the flower girl. Mistress. Chin Mo's voice deepened because of the title. The moment she caught sight of the handsome face in front of her, she immediately changed the topic. I'll see how I can get her a visa, so she can come over with Almighty Yun and the rest. In the end, it was not an excuse. After all, it was not easy to get a visa for the Fifth Avenue. Of course, he had to contact them in advance. Since it was a wedding, how could he be complete without his good friends? About this point, Chin Mo felt the same way, so he didn't continue to correct her for calling him master's wife. It was when Bojo was sending a message to Yun Hu. He also took out his phone and pressed his slender fingers on the screen. He took a picture of the invitation card for the wedding venue that the butler had prepared earlier. They were sent to William and Hoshino. When William received the message, he was still reminiscing about the times when he and Gio were young, but when he saw the invitation, he was strangely unhappy. This devil was really ruthless. It was so early in the morning, and he was already making her so unhappy. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.